Today, a major question before Georgia's highest court surrounding the BioLab fire from 2024. You may recall those plumes of smoke billowed over Rockdale County, forcing nearly 20,000 people to evacuate.
Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn is live outside of the Georgia Supreme Court. And Patrick, now the state Supreme Court, tasked with helping decide who could be entitled to health care coverage for potential exposure of harmful chemicals.
Today's hearing was all about the size and scope of remedies or damages awarded to those potentially impacted by that 2024 fire. Do you just provide those remedies to those with present injuries, or should those within a 25-mile vicinity of that fire, could they receive medical monitoring for potential injuries down the road? The state Supreme Court, they heard the case today.
September 2024, billows of smoke hovered high above Rockdale County for days after a chemical fire erupted at the BioLab chemical plant, sending plumes of chlorine and toxic gases into the air.
We're out here fighting for Georgians.
Chris Stewart, among the team of attorneys representing Rockdale County residents and businesses potentially impacted. They're arguing BioLab should cover the cost of health monitoring, procedures like lung scans or x-rays for people who are not currently showing illnesses tied to the fire, but could be at risk down the road due to potential exposure. And the list of people potentially impacted could be long.
It's going to be at least in the tens of thousands, I think. But, where between there you draw the line of how much exposure you had and thus whether you qualify for medical monitoring, very discretionary in the district court.
The Supreme Court right now is just weighing if health monitoring is something the state can require. Another court, as part of an ongoing class action lawsuit against BioLab, will actually determine who qualifies and the parameters of coverage. The attorneys representing BioLab argued the chemical manufacturing company that produces pool and spa treatment products should only be potentially on the hook for present injuries, and granting health monitoring coverage would be an overstep by the state.
Make no mistake, they're essentially asking for a remedy that would allow a trial judge to become a public health monitor. And in this case, the putative class covers potentially 2 million people that live within 25 miles of the Conyers plant.
State investigators following the fire found BioLab was improperly storing hazardous chemicals. BioLab stopped manufacturing at the Conyers site last May. The smoke has settled. Now the legal fight carries on.
We're just trying to make sure that people are protected currently and in the future.
And attorneys representing Rockdale County residents, they believe that judges here at the state Supreme Court could have a ruling by July. They went on to say that the class action lawsuit ongoing against BioLab, they said that will continue as planned, independent of how the state Supreme Court rules. We're live in downtown Atlanta. Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.